Welcome back to Kris Greenhill's Garage. I'm Kris.
And I'm Kris.
In this video, we are restoring the front floorboards of Kris Jr.'s 1982 Ford Mustang GT. Before you watch this video, understand we are not professional body men. We are not professional welders. We're not professional paint restoration people. So when I say we're restoring this thing, we're cutting out some cancer. We're very poorly welding in some new patch panels. We're rattle canning some primer and some paint on it. And we're just getting rid of rust and trying to make it last another 40 years. This is not putting the car in a spit. This is not professional body work. If you're looking for that, go somewhere else. This is driveway, rattle can, $100 cheap welder garage stuff. We left off last time, like 6 weeks ago or something, cutting out some rust out of the front of Kris's floorboard and the interior of the car and the exterior of the car with the kick panel, where the kick panel goes from the inside to the outside. And I had welded a patch panel in there. This one, we're going to start off by cutting that, getting rid of that, and trying to do it somewhat more properly. We don't actually do anything properly. It's going to be better than it was, probably. All right, let's get to restoring this car in the typical Kris Greenhill way. It's a new day, a new weekend, and I've already started the process of cutting this patch panel off. I'm not pleased with the work I was doing. I'm not happy with how it was going. It's ugly, it's nasty, and just patching a hole is not going to cut it. I am going to cut a new patch panel out of thinner gauge metal. I believe this is 18 gauge. This is 20 or 22. I can't remember. But I've already started cutting this off, and I'm going to try to grind all this down. I'm going to take a lot more time and try to do this correctly. I know that sounds weird coming from me. All right, patch panel's off. You can see the butchery. What is left is fairly decent metal for the most part, but you can see where I've screwed up welds. So I'm going to cut all this down, grind it all down, and get a good clean surface. I'm going to do the inside also, which is even worse, and start from scratch and try to fix this correctly. Since it is so hard to get a grinder in here without removing the fender, and I don't want to remove the fender, I found some rust dissolver. Unfortunately, the sprayer's broken, so I'm putting it on with a paintbrush, letting it sit a little bit, reapplying, wiping off, and then hopefully here soon I'll have a nice rust-free surface. And I've hit this inside and out. So then I'm gonna finish grinding all this rust-free metal down. Look at this. Look at me being all professional and stuff. Making a cardboard cutout of the patch panel we need down here so it'll fit perfectly, so I can then lay it on my sheet metal and cut it out and actually have something that works. Craziness, isn't it? I am an artiste. Looky here. Just plops right on up in there, right there. Like it came from the factory, except much crappier. Wait, this is 80s Ford factory. Nope, like it came from the factory in 1982. It's perfect. Rust dissolver did a pretty good job in a short amount of time. No, this isn't pretty. No, it's not gorgeous. I really don't have a way to make it pretty or gorgeous. It is what it is. But it's about time to start welding on this thing again. Before I begin, I feel like I should once again point out the fact that I'm aware I'm not doing this correctly. I am not a real welder. I'm an idiot who owns a welder. There's a big difference. No need to point out all my mistakes. I'm figuring it out as I go. I'm self-taught, and I'm trying to teach the boy without knowing what I'm actually doing. It's not going all that well, if I'm honest. All right, I have this thing tacked in. You can see where I've been pinching it together with the frame. Got a little heat separation back there in the corner. There's not a lot I can do about that. I can't clamp it But I'm just going around and I'm going side to side to side to side and top to bottom and doing my best to tack it in place. And even with lower wire speed and lower temperature, I'm still getting some burn through in this really thin metal. But good news is I'm not burning through on the car frame anymore, which is big for me. Really glad I finally laid down here and started checking this out. This had really opened up and started spreading due to heat warp. The new patch panel was bowing out, and I could almost stick my finger in there. I used vice grips to clamp it down a little more, and I'm gonna put some vice grips on there, lock it into place, and then weld it. Back under the car. I need to come through here and finish this patch plate from underneath. I had to spread some rust dissolve to try to clean this up because it's pretty bad. You can see where this is a combination of, these holes are a combination of where a lot of rust and neglect, and then over exuberance on my part with too much heat on the welder. I'm going to start the process of coming down here and cleaning up and fixing all this stuff. This was not me, except where I punched my finger through the rust spots. But not my fault. It was completely rusted out. But I'm going to get under here and try to fix some of the things I screwed up. This is all far from perfect, but I'll be danged if with a little less wire speed and a little less heat, I wasn't able to patch things up just a little bit. It's not perfect, and I could probably spend another 12 hours trying to perfect it and change it and a bunch of other stuff, but I'm not going to. I'm going to move on. I even patched up some of the little pinholes from out here that I blew through accidentally, so this is a huge improvement over what it was, and I'm happy with this. Here we are back inside the car. If you're asking yourself, isn't the floorboard down here worse than it was? Yes, it is. I came through here with the grinder wheel and cut off a lot of old slag and rust and stuff that I melted accidentally. And I'm going to go back through here with lower wire speed and lower heat. And I am going to try to patch some of this up, but I'm probably going to end up just welding in new patch panels like I did from the outside. Alright, here's a cardboard mock-up of the patch panel I want to put in here, just because there's only so much fixing I can do down in that corner as badly as I screwed it up before. Alright, and here's kind of what I'm going for over here. I'm going to try to make a couple of patch panels to kind of tie into this. Try to strengthen up this corner and tie it all together. You can kind of see what I'm going for here. I've got 3 different panels I'm going to try to weld in and patch together and try to close all that corner up as best I can. I'm really struggling inside today. It's the same thing as yesterday. All the stuff that I accomplished on the outside of the car, I'm completely failing out on the inside. I can't get anything to stick. If I hold something on 2 seconds, it doesn't stick. If I hold it on 3 seconds, it burns through. Really struggling with this, to the point I'm going to have to cut out these patch panels and start over. They're just, I can't get anything to stick in here. It's driving me crazy. I'm taking my time, going slow. I'm trying to be patient, and it's horrible. And yes, I did clean up everything before I started welding. It's just that much carbon buildup now. Well, those 2 patch panels in the corner cannot easily be removed. They're stuck pretty well, and they're wanting to rip out. I don't like that. So they're stuck well enough, so I've remade a new patch panel for over here, and I'm going to try to correct my mistakes from earlier. That is better. I put several self-tapping screws in this thing to pull it into shape, and it is looking much better. That's just how we do things here at Kris Greenhill's Garage. Trying to do it the quote-unquote right way, but it just wasn't having it. It's amazing how much smoother and better this goes when the metal can't bend and warp and fall away. It is a lot better with those self-tappers in there. But I'm out of welding wire again, so that is it for the day. I've got to order some bulk online and come back to this in a few days, but we are very close to being airtight and sealed off from the elements over here on the passenger side. Hallelujah. If you're wondering what's taking so long on part 2 of this video, well, I've only got a few hours of free time in the next couple of weeks, and we are in between rainstorms, and I'm not setting up my welding equipment just to get rained out after 5 minutes. So today's a complete wash. Since we've been rained out, let's try a cold start for our friend Lynn Running Deer, now that the battery's charged. Come on. Oh, there we go. Caught the cold idle cam and everything. That's more like it. It's been another week. Still haven't done any more welding on the car. It is actively raining right now. Anyway, my only free time this week is going to be used tomorrow on the dyno, hopefully. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, you'll have long ago seen the video of Junior's car running on the dyno, and hopefully we made it there and ran the dyno and made it home successfully. So, anyway, I am going to fix up the floorboards and fix the car up someday, but today is not that day. It's another 5 days later. Still haven't gotten to do any welding. I got a couple hours free today, but I've got to go run errands. I am driving the car though. I'm getting it out and about. As you can see, it is raining, because that's just what it does on my days off now. But just discovered one of our many leaks in the window seal we'll have to get to. We are going to get to that here pretty soon, Lynn Running Deer. We do know that new water pouring in onto our fresh welds and paint is not a good thing. Anyway, no welding this week. It'll probably be after New Year's. And like I said in the dyno video, I'm out once again driving the car in the rain. A few drops of water on the road does not mean we have to cancel every car event. It doesn't mean we have to park our cars and not enjoy them. I'm driving the car because I want it to move and be used on occasion, and you can hear it, it's actively raining. But it is getting worse, and I'm still out here driving it on drag slicks. You don't have to park the car because it's raining. You do, however, have to give yourself a little bit of extra stopping distance because we don't have ABS or anything fancy. I'm finally back. I've got a few hours today to get a little bit of work done. As you can see, it's gotten kind of cold. It is not comfortable, but it is dry, so I think I'm gonna get some welding done. The goal for today is to finish welding in the patch panels over here on the passenger floorboard, at least get those looking decent for me, and try to finish that up today. I doubt I get to the driver's side floorboard today. I just don't have the time. I'd be happy if I could finish this up and get some rust reformer on it and make that look halfway presentable. It's cold as crap. Let's try a cold start. What is your deal today? wasn't able to videotape any of this. It's just me today, the boys in school. I know this is hideous, but let's not focus on what we see here, which are trash welds. Let's focus on what we don't see here, and that is the ground. And I could see the ground when I started. This does not count. That's a drain plug. We have the rubber plug for it. I know how hideous a lot of this is. Not a lot I could do about it. I was trying to correct the sins of the past today, especially back here in this corner. These were horrible. So many burn throughs, so many gaps, so many screw ups that I realized I made. And the only two ways I could have corrected it was just cut all of this out and start again, which would have caused even more damage and taken even longer. Or I could come back in here and try to fill it up with a bunch of weld. And that's what I chose to do. I know it's not correct, but it's what I had to do. The positive of the day was I was able to remove all those self-tapping screws and fill in those holes. And believe it or not, I made a handful of good welds. You can't tell what are new good welds versus the old welds, but I actually made some progress. I am learning. I went and read some books, some articles. I watched some videos. I'm getting better. In fact, I wish I'd have done all that properly a month ago when we started this. This would look completely different. But I'm not all that concerned. Like I said, you do not see the ground. Once we prime and paint this, I think it'll be fine. And then after we prime and paint it, we are going to come in here and put some caulk, some seam sealer in there to make sure it's airtight. And that was the goal. We want the outside of the car on the outside, and we want the inside of the car to be somewhat weatherproof. And this does accomplish that, as horrible as it looks. A little rust eater primer, and we're looking beautiful. It is not factory quality, but, well, you know what? Once again, 1982 quality. I kind of comfortable in saying this is probably as good or better than 1982 Ford quality. Another look at the driver's side floorboard. I am not going to be able to do anything productive on this today. I don't have the time. It is the exact same as the other side. We are going to have to cut a strip of this out and re-weld it in. Good news is I learned some better techniques. I think I can do a much better job this time, make it look a lot cleaner and a lot smoother. There are a few spots have to be cut out. This is weird. This is almost like multi-layer metal here, but that is a rust hole, and that is a piece of metal prying up. I will probably end up having to cut this entire thing out of here. Good times. Yep, that's going to be a lot of cutting. This is pretty well rotten out. Look at all the rust dust. That's all coming from inside of there. So we got quite a bit of work to do on this side. Finally back at it. It's December 28th or 29th. I'm not really sure. Just now getting a chance to get out here and get some work done. Today is one of only 2 days I have off with the boy, and he is sick. We had Christmas Day off together. Obviously we didn't do any work on the car that day, and we had today, and he's running a fever and he's in the house sick. So I'm just gonna have to come out here and start cutting and welding and getting stuff done. If he's feeling well enough, I might have him come out and watch some of the welding. It is time to tackle this nonsense, and I'm kind of thinking I may just pull all this firewall insulation out of here. It's wet and damp and rusty and pretty crappy. I'm trying to figure out what is going on here with this spot in the floor. It looks like it's double layered. I'm not sure that's right, because this firewall layer should end right in here, and this should be the floorboard. So I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm going to have to cut into that and figure out what's happening and how deep the rust goes. I'm trying to grind it clean to get a good look at it. I also found more rust up on the firewall. The good news is, while it is pitted, I am getting down to bare metal, and it is not rusted all the way through. Pretty sure I can just prime and paint that and be good to go. Found more rust under what was left of the factory glue for the sound deadener, but I don't think any of this is burned all the way through or rusted all the way through. I think it's just kind of pitted. Should be able to clean it up. Should be good there. Hopefully I can keep my welding to up in that area. Wishful thinking. I was going through with the wire wheel and just taking off the top coat of rust, and I've already got a little hole right there I'll need patched. But I think everything else around it's going to be okay. That's probably more wishful thinking. Got a lot more stripping done. Pulled out that sound deadening mat. Good news is, up here is pretty solid. Everything from about an inch up, except over here I just discovered this, where this seam sealer and glue nonsense is, and it's reminding me of the other side. So I've got to do some more grinding and get this old glue out of here. I'm hoping and praying that's not as bad as the other side. Some really good news is that there's this big wad of nasty goop and garbage here, and it was kind of rust colored all along here, and I was really afraid this entire seam was rusted out, but I got the grinder in here and it's not. So a little bit of good news to go along with the bad news. So much to do, so little time. I have finally gotten up into this corner. There is a ridiculous amount of this white caulk seam sealer stuff in here. It took me forever, but I'm almost completely down to bare metal now. I went ahead, the reason it's wet is I went ahead and wiped on some rust dissolve gel, some rust dissolver here, and my nozzle's broken. So yeah, I just painted on with a paintbrush. I'm going to leave it for a little while, grind off the rust so I can get an idea of what I'm dealing with everywhere, and then we'll go from there. I just keep finding more seam sealer everywhere I go, and it's painted just like the floor. Ford went absolutely insane with this stuff, and you can't tell it from the metal when it's laid flat like this. I thought this black part was metal, so I accidentally hit it with the grinder and peeled it up. It's this caulk nonsense that collects water. Ugh. Rust dissolver's instructions clearly state, spray it on or wipe it on wet, let it stand a few minutes, and then clean it off before it dries, and whatever you do, do not let it dry on the surface. And I strongly disagree. I found it does its best work when it's allowed to dry into the rust and then just grind it off. And clearly I know more than the scientists that designed this stuff. It's quite a while later. I had to go buy some new sheet metal to do all this anyway. Came back, ground off most of the rust dissolver stuff and found several more pinholes, and some of this is pitted so deep I can't really get it with a wire wheel, so we're going to hit it with the grinder wheel. You may not be able to tell on camera, but I came through here with my much more aggressive grinder wheel, which I forgot I had, new grinding discs, and took a lot of this down a lot further. Unfortunately, here and here and here and here and here and here, found some holes all the way through. Not a big deal. Those are not very difficult to fix. I can actually just weld them up. There's good metal around them. They're just small little pinholes. This, from what I can tell, I think this is the transmission cross member. This is why it's double layered. It's the only thing I can figure out under the car. But I'm trying to grind away what I can. Ugh, that's just peeling off. And trying to get to clean metal so I can see the situation under here. Figure out what I've got to cut out and what I've got to replace. That's what I was afraid of. That bad spot on the floor is directly under this. I can actually see through this hole here. So that's why I've got that weird layer of metal. The floorboard is rotted out. This is doing okay. So I'm going to have to find a way to cut out as much of the floorboard off of this as possible without endangering the structural integrity of my transmission crossmember. That'll be fun. I'm not sure if you can tell what I've done, but what I did is I took the cutoff wheel and I cut through just the floorboard metal, and now I'm peeling up the floorboard metal off that transmission crossmember so I can get a better look at it and see how far I need to cut to carry on. Good times. Alright, so I cut back the floor pan until I hit good quality metal, and then with a little over exuberance with the grinder, I kind of pretty much almost welded and fused the floor back to the freaking crossmember. Whoops. As soon as I cut all this out and get the welder going, I'll close this back up. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, if I'm going to patch this or just weld this back together. Doesn't really seem like it needs an actual patch panel in there. I went crazy on this thing with the grinder. It's that little patch right behind the gas pedal, as you can see there. I really thought I was going to punch through and punch a hole through it with the grinder. It's pretty pitted, it's pretty deep, but I got about 99% of it off, and there's still metal, no holes. So that's a win. So far, all I need to do is cut out this strip here. Unlike the other side, this side actually had some decent metal underneath it, underneath the rod. Here's the rod. You can see the layer of rot. Fortunately, I end up hacking into some good metal, and now I have to probably get rid of it. I don't know. I may just cut off the rot, hammer that back in place, and start welding it back and patching around it. This, a little over exuberance with the cutoff wheel, but then I peeled a piece of metal off there and it ripped into there. The other side was just so rotten, everything just kind of fell apart. This has got some good metal under it, which is actually causing problems. Looks like I've cut out most of the cancerous layers. I'm going to hit the rest of that with a grinder and see if there's good clean metal under there. And if there is, I'm going to kind of just start patching it back up. As is, some of this good metal is still attached to the unibody rail underneath it, and it's really being difficult to get off. So there wasn't as much rot as I thought there was, which is good. Hopefully I can start patching it back together. Every time I think I'm done, I hit some more with the grinder to get ready to weld, to clean up a spot, and I punch through some more rust. This had to go. This square had to go. I almost cut through our speedometer cable, which would have been so much fun. But this is just surface. Initially, I thought this was going to have to go. I don't think that it is. I am almost out of daylight today. This took much longer than I expected. But I think I am going to get the welder out here and at least try to tack up some of the scars and try to put some of this back together. This is not going as well as I'd hoped. Some spots are welding okay, some spots are not. These little pinholes, oh my god, the lowest wire speed and the lowest heat, they just melted and exploded the moment I hit them. I was just trying to fill in a little bead, just melt some weld on top of them, and they just exploded. That means there was a lot more rust in there than I initially thought. So I'm probably gonna have to open these up and just patch them. I don't think I can actually weld them closed. Of course, I'm gonna have to patch all that nastiness also, but I knew that. I am completely out of daylight today. I booger welded a couple of patches into place. Kind of started running that piece back together, filling in a couple of spots where I burned through some rust. It's not pretty yet, still a work in progress. I think this time I am going to go back and grind my welds and re-weld them a couple times and make them look at least halfway decent. But hopefully I'll be back in a couple of days. Look who finally decided to join us. Feeling a little better, boy? All right. So today we're going to take cardboard, go underneath the floorboard. We're going to make some cardboard cutouts of those holes, transfer them to metal, and make our patch panels. Hey Janie, hey baby girl, old lady Janie cat, one of the other shop cats. We have our 2 patch panels transferred to metal. Kris is gonna grab the cutoff wheel and we're gonna go cut these. Well, we have our patch panels. That one is cut and mostly bent. I measured it a little short, my bad. This one's better. However, I realize I've welded myself into a corner with these garbage booger welds up here. It's not going to let it sit flush, so I've got to go through and grind some of this off to get it to stick. All right, we have the patch panels lightly tacked into place. Pretty poorly, I might add. I tacked them, and Junior is going to try to finish them off. Go ahead, buddy. That's good. Check it, see if it's stuck. Burn through. Let me get in there and look. Check it.
Spray it up. Burning through.
Burning through. Right, let me get in there and look again. That better? I think we're going to abandon this plan. No matter what we do, the lowest temperature and the lowest wire speed, this thing is just burning through everywhere. I think we're going to cut this out of here and go with a larger patch panel and just put a patch panel over the whole thing, grind all this down, cut out the new metal, and start over. I tried a little bit more wire speed with the lower temperature, and it helped in a couple of spots, but a couple others just, it flamed right through, just burned right through like it wasn't there. We're just dealing with some really thin metal, and I don't have the training and experience to do this properly. So I think we're going to cut this out, come back with a larger patch panel like we did on the other side, and try to do a better job. And just like that, we have another new plan. Another new plan. Believe it or not, some of these welds stuck so well we can't get them out. I've ground them, I've tried to cut them. This is just ripping and tearing. Some of these really stuck really well. A couple of Juniors stuck great, a couple of mine stuck great. My only options are to just cut and butcher this whole floorboard into a million pieces, or I can leave this how it is, prime it, and then just put a whole patch panel over this. I'm not sure which I'm going to do. All new plan. I have this ground down pretty smooth, got our patch panel kind of bent into place, and now it's time. Boy, get the metal self-tappers out. Huh, convenient. Hey, I hear you asking yourself, is this the right way to do this, the boy?
I stopped asking myself that a long time ago. I know this is not the right way to do it.
What do you mean it's not the right way to do it? I was going to say, yes, this is how you do this. This is mechanicking, the boy. Metal self-tappers are a mechanic's best friend. Ugh. So little faith in Father's abilities. So everything over here in the driver's side has been ground down as smooth and flush as we can get it. Put a little bit of rust reformer primer down. Gonna screw the patch panel into place, get ready to weld. I can already hear you at home asking, well, Kris, is that weld through primer? Huh, no. But all primer is weld through primer with enough heat. So yes, it is. Look at that beautiful piece of art. Magnificent, isn't it? 2-second burst, buddy. Check it. I think it needs just a little bit more. A couple of seconds and then make a little circle. All right, check it. That looks pretty good from here.
That looks decent.
As long as it's attached.
This helmet's going crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, looks like it.
Looks good. All right, now move across somewhere else that's cold. Make sure the metal is hammered flush against wherever you're going to weld. It goes somewhere else. Here's Junior's work, roughly halfway through, and looking pretty good. Everything's stuck all the way around. It's holding in place. He's going to clean up the welds, clean around where he's got a weld coming up, and carry on. Here's Kris removing our self-tapping screws. May have welded onto a couple of them, but we're going to pull them out, make sure the welds are holding their own weight on their own, and everything's looking good so far. About halfway through. All the self-tapping screws are out, and Kris is going to go ahead and use those holes as spot welding holes, seal them up, and use it to reinforce the floor a little more. They look good? All right, carry on. We are essentially done with this, but this one little spot here, every time you go anywhere near it with the welder, it just blows a hole through it, no matter the settings. So we're gonna have to put a little piece of patch over that and try to tie that together and come back here and try to tie it into some good metal. Good enough. The hole is gone. That's a drain plug. We're gonna put rubber in, and we're gonna call that good enough. Get some primer and paint on this. Call it a day. I'm almost out of time. Put a little rust reformer primer down just to soak up any carbon and rust buildup. That's all I got time for today. I have to get dressed and go to work. We'll be back in 3 or 4 days. Do a little more welding. I'd like to get the car up in the air and tie some of this together underneath the car to make it look a little better. Then we're going to go about just stripping all this, priming and painting. Good job welding, buddy.
Thanks.
Welcome back. Happy New Year's. Yes, it has been that long. It is now 2025, and we're hoping today to finish up the front half of the floorboards on Kris Jr.'s 1982 Ford Mustang GT. Today we just have some little spots we got to weld up. I'm going to crawl under the car on each side, weld up some pinholes that I found. Meanwhile, Kris is going to be cleaning up the floorboards, cleaning them up, getting them ready for paint. Hopefully by the end of the day we're going to layer paint down and be done with at least the front half of the floorboards. You finally excited to get this done? We can bolt the seats back in full time and drive it around some more. Can't say I'm overly proud of this, but I hit the last couple of little pinholes from the top and the bottom. I got the light from the top and the bottom, made sure that there's no light transmitting either way, filled up all the pinholes. I'm ready to just paint these things, get some insulation over them, get some carpet down, and get the car back on the road. Here's the bottom of our hack patch job. You see this was floorboard. This is the bottom of the patch panel, or the middle panel that we welded in and couldn't get out. And then it's just covered up. Horrible welding, I know, I'm not a welder. But you can't see light and you can't see the ground, so I'm happy. We are done welding. We have cleaned up the floorboards. They were ready for paint. We had to come back in with a wire brush and clean some old sitting grease. But it looks like we are ready to lay paint. I asked Kris if he wanted to weld up some patches over this transmission tunnel hole. He said no, he didn't really care. So when we put the console back on, we're gonna put tight insulation over the actual shifter itself to seal it up and hope for the best. Here's the finished product for the day. 2 cans of cheap flat black rattle can covered the whole thing. It's not beautiful, but it is good enough. It is factually flat black and rust free from the front of the firewall back to the beginning of the back seat. And that was this particular project. It only took a month. Thank you for watching very much. We greatly appreciate it. We will be back here soon, probably within a week, to start the back seat area restoration. Removing the whole back seat. Same thing. Cut out cancer, grind some stuff, weld some stuff, paint some stuff. You're probably not going to see that for a month because that's how long it took to do this. But we'll be back soon with that. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. You know, Junior, I'm confident in saying that this was by far the worst part of the car. Everything else will be nice, smooth sailing from here on out. Oh. Oh no. Oh no.